Nonprofit Oxfam Philippines or Pilipinas says that a wealth tax targeting Filipino millionaires could leave the Philippines $3.8 billion richer. The statement came as the global elite nestled themselves in a posh Swiss ski resort for the World Economic Forum in Davos. The group noted that the 9 richest Filipinos have more wealth than the bottom half of the entire Philippine population. Oxfam also noted that millionaires in the Philippines have gone up by more than 40% since 2012, and a recent report by the World Bank also stated that after 3 decades, the Philippines still has one of the widest wealth gaps here in Asia. Now, the World Economic Forum brings to light global challenges but also juxtaposes the elite nature of those invited and emphasizes the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Here to help us reflect on the real issues, we have with us Mustafa Talpur, Regional Advocacy and Campaigns Lead of Oxfam, joining us live from Pakistan. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, let's kick off with the World Economic Forum. Has this achieved much in terms of bridging or narrowing the gap between the rich and the poor since its creation? And do you believe any concrete steps will be taken to addressing such problems?
Thank you very much for having me here. We have seen over the last 10 years that World Economic Forum, rich people get together there on the Sky Resort. There has been much talk, but it hasn't proved into any actions. There's just lip service. And people from different countries, the businesses, politicians, but at least you can say that there is a recognition now that the rich is not only the gap between rich and poor, but in the last 10 years, and even in the years of the COVID, we have seen that these people with billions of wealth are pulling away more from the rest of us all around the world. So this is why Oxfam is calling for, this is a known and tested tool to tax the super rich and use these resources for providing the necessary public services, social protection to the people who need the most now. And that's the only way to narrow this rich-poor divide, but also save the democracies in the world, because this billions of dollars and high concentration of wealth is buying the politics. It's also buying the media. So they control the story that's told to the world. And that story is not working. The trickle-down economics that you cut the taxes on the rich, they will invest, they create employment. But over and over again, we have seen that this story is oversold. It's not working.
Okay.
And system is completely broken.
Okay, I'll get back to you on the key issue you've mentioned here, which is taxing the rich. But before then, give us an idea of the global situation and the Philippine situation when it comes to the wealth gap. Why is it that the rich continue to get richer despite all of the reforms that we've seen in taxation and like you mentioned, social welfare, and the poor continue to get poorer? Is this in every geography? This is the same trend? Is this a global phenomenon, or are you seeing different ways in which this is experienced?
Oh, thank you very much. No, this is global phenomenon. Over last 3-4 decades. Just give you one example. After 2020, the world has added 42 trillion US dollars into the world economy. But 2/3 of that, or $26 trillion, has been taken away by just 1%, from 1%. And rest of the 99% of us got only 37%. And why it's happening? Because the decades of new liberal economic a theory that practiced in many countries, the overemphasis on growth, the overemphasis on deregulation, the states pulling away from public services, have caused and eroding the workers' rights. So this has all caused the concentration of the wealth in few hands. And then the rich people get away for not paying the taxes. Just give you an example. The world's richest person, Jeff Bezos, hardly paid 1% effective tax rate.
Wow.
While a street vendor in Manila or in Uganda or in Islamabad they pay their 30%,
Mm-hmm.
not earning over, we just studied a street vendor in Uganda earns $80 a month and she pays 30% tax.
Mm-hmm.
While the rich people find the loopholes through their consultants, the audit firms, and all these support mechanism that they have, they get away with this
Okay.
tax evasion.
Mm-hmm. Mustafa,
So
no,
that is
you
why they
mentioned.
got too rich.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, no, but taxing the rich, like you mentioned, it seems like a good idea in theory, but in a country like the Philippines, where the rule of law continues to be questioned by outsiders, do we even have a transparent, trustworthy, and structured tax bureau in place where you can be assured that the money of the rich is going to be going to the correct places?
Yeah, I think there are challenges with the tax administration, tax collection, and tax spending, but that excuse cannot be used to tax the rich people more.
Mm.
I think these systems could be improved. Now, many countries are putting IT-based solutions. Many groups are tracking the budgets, bringing the transparency, where you have effective and working democracies. The parliaments can have oversights, but because these excuses are actually weakening the argument to taxing the rich. So what we are calling for at least a one-off windfall taxes.
Okay.
Three larger corporations, the food companies, energy companies, and pharmaceuticals, in over last 2.5 years, have earned billions of dollars for not paying the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, under the economic reforms, as I again said, due to the neoliberal economic theory, the top rates of income tax have gone down rather going up in everywhere in the world. Again, the argument was that trickle down tax cuts for rich, they will invest and create the job. It hasn't happened. And thirdly, on wealth tax. Now, many countries have been introducing that, even including my country, Pakistan. They have one-time tax after the COVID to generate the resources. So these three instruments could help to bring, as you said in your introduction, just Philippines can get 3.8%. 3.8 billion US dollars in a year of taxing the rich people, and that money could be, increasing the health spending of 5 times health spending in the Philippines only.
Okay, sir, the Department of Finance Secretary warned or cautioned against this, saying this might lead to more tax avoidance, capital flight from the Philippines, perhaps stifling the growth of such big corporations. And he also gave some, instances, for instance, in Europe, where they even repealed the wealth taxes. Your thoughts on this?
No, there is a now growing movement all around the world to tax the rich. Because we can't see, this is disgusting to see that 800 million people are going hungry. And we just see the workers, more 107 billion workers living in the countries where inflation is now outpacing their wages. And there is a staggering number of billionaires. This is a system that's a failure. So adding a billionaire in an economy is not a sign of a healthy economy. So I think this argument, many countries are now turning to introduce the wealth tax on inheritance, on land taxes, on dividends, on corporate profits. So that's not the argument to not put more taxes. And that's why it's not only Oxfam, it's World Bank, it's OECD, it's the world known economists, including Stiglitz, they are calling for taxing the rich more. And it's not only, it's generating the revenue to fund the essential public services the poor need the most, but it's also controlling the concentration of extreme of the wealth.
Okay.
And that then extreme wealth and rich people stifle with your democracies, with your systems, and they create the whole narrative that becomes then dominant narrative. So we have to tell a different story that this system is not working.
Okay, and finally, before we let you go, the government had, even in the previous administration, already done some tax reforms, particularly implementing the train law, PIFITA. Have you seen that in some way, at least these have been effective in lowering the burden on the poor and being more equitable?
I can't say that it has lowered the burden on the poor, but at least it generated some critical revenue for the governments. And in all the countries in ASEAN, the points that you mentioned, I think it's important that one country cannot do it. So as a bloc, they have to work together, because if one country introduces the tax, that might not be helpful.
Okay.
But all the countries have to come together and find the collective ways, so there's no capital flight, there's no tax evasion, and people don't stifle the rules of each other and the countries. And I think this is a badly needed expenditure. Government needs more money after COVID to support the poor people and rebuilding their economies that has been damaged severely by this economic crisis that we have seen after 1930 depressions and 1998 financial crisis in Asia.
All right.
So this is a huge moment and provides an opportunity to raise the revenue. And I think the rich people and the billionaires have to also come forward. And ASEAN has seen over the Davos, there are many hundred of millionaires are there and asking governments they should be taxed more. So there are individuals
volunteers
who are favoring that idea.
All right, well, let's see if that actually happens here in the Philippines. Some volunteers to help us with some government expenditures. Thank you so much, Mustafa Talpur, Regional Advocacy and Campaigns Lead over at Oxfam Asia.
Thank you.